Hello guys and dolls, welcome back to Honey Badger 3D Print and Paint. Today we are taking a look at the Magforms P13. Before we get started, roll those credits. Okay, so before we say anything, I just want to say this is one of the best looking and consistently performing machines I think we've ever had on the channel. We have the Frozen Mega 8K, which is larger than this, but some of the features of this machine are just better. So let's start at the top, right? This machine is not for your average hobbyist. This machine is targeted at people who are generating revenue from 3D printing. It is rapid prototyping. It is people who have large scale sort of Etsy farms and things like that. We've printed some really cool stuff with it already in some different materials. I want to show you some of that. We're going to have a separate video that shows a bunch of the different resins that we got sent. So what I want to do now is I just want to go through the specs of this machine. We will start with price. So this machine is $5,400 US. That makes it the second most expensive machine we've ever had on the channel, beaten only by the photocentric Opus, which was smaller than this, 7 grand, and only 4K and a bunch of other issues as well. Let's just talk through what makes this machine great. So let's dive into specs. So build volume is 277 by 156 by 380. If my math is right, I think that makes this a 12.6 inch screen. It doesn't give you the screen size like that, but the build volume gives you an idea. It is a 6K printer, not an 8K printer. That being said, when you're at this size, I'll show you some of the models in a minute. The detail is phenomenal. We've got some miniatures down here that are really, really miniature, and they are not printing with an 8K resin, and we're not even printing yet with their ultra fine resin. This is just some bargain bin Sunlu resin that we had from an old project that we wanted to use so that we could get some stuff done really quickly without having to change profiles too much. We wanted to make sure that this printed with sort of quote unquote regular resin rather than just it prints great with theirs but it prints like garbage with everyone else's, which is exactly what happened with the Opus for us. But let's carry on with some of the specs for this. So we've got a 25.5 Hume, and we've got a prints down to a 0.001 inch layer height, or a 25 Hume layer height. It's obviously MSLA. It uses standard 405 resins. This does have a heater on it, as well as the ability to put a Wi-Fi dongle in the back. The Wi-Fi dongle is important for the type of people that are using this. So there is also a hardline Ethernet port in the back as well. There are some industrial areas that for whatever reason they cannot have Wi-Fi on at all. Right? It interferes with different machines. It can interfere and crowd their network. Some of them just don't want them on a Wi-Fi network. They all want them hardlined. This has the option for Wi-Fi or for Ethernet. It does have a built-in heater, and that's activated with the second button that's behind the shoes. It's also got a carbon activated filter for extraction. You can see it's got an up and over hood, which is on gas struts, and it also bathes everything in this lovely light whenever the hood is open. If there is one issue, and it's not really an issue because it's personal preference, if there's one criticism that I can make, it's that we've still got the USB port on the side of this machine. want to be clear that with the type of people that would be using these sort of machines, they would absolutely have them networked, and they would have them with a farm software so that they can control multiple machines and everything else. So that USB port really doesn't make any difference at all, because most people aren't going to be printing via USB. We will be. I dislike it on the side. I wish it could have been on the front. It isn't. Let's delve into how some of these prints look. So we've got Sunlu prints, which are sort of all the miniatures. They're just regular resin. And then we've also got some flexible resin that I want to show you as well. Okay, let's start with some of the biggest stuff. So this is a cool robot head that we found. You can see there is quite a lot of surface detail here. Really, really nice finish. There's actually still a couple of little supports in there that I didn't manage to scrape out. But this is an absolutely beautiful print. This printed all in one. It printed at a 45-degree angle. We'll talk about why in a bit. We've blown up a Nurgle Commander. So again, you can see here all that detail. Absolutely glorious. Same on the back. Done an absolutely stunning job with that. We get to my favourite bust I think we've ever done, because I've not seen this level of detail coming out on a model before. So let me see how close I can get. But just take a look at how that armour came out. Absolutely beautiful. Loads of detail on the face. This particular model is Timothy Charlemagne. Really, really nice. As I say, there we go. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful work. So really, really love that one. We've then also got here an Achilles bust. So this one, again, this is like a leather armour with a Brad Pitt face there. You can see all the textures and all the battle damage on the shield there. Really, really nice. Really pretty. And that sword there as well. Even the detail right there in the way that his brace has been done. Absolutely stunning. Surface quality is bang on. Like, everything is there. We'll move on to some of the minis. So we've got this guy. So what we've got here is we've got a raw mini just here that we assembled, and then we've also got him primed, so you can see a little bit more of the detail that he's got to offer, because again, he is absolutely glorious. Really, really nice. We come on to a Space Marine that we have. So we'll start with the unprimed version. So again, really, really fine detail there. See the sword and everything, really cool. And then just to highlight that detail, we've got a primed version. Really good. This is easily at a level where you could start selling these on Etsy if Games Workshop wouldn't immediately come and take your house. We've got a Lizard Warrior here. Lovely details. And again, we'll just bring him up here. Primed. Just get you to, there we go. So you can see all of that beautiful surface textures. Again, ready to be sold. I mean, he'd be incredibly fragile to ship out, but ready for any tabletop game, and ready for someone to do an absolutely stunning paint job on. So really good there. Then we have the guy I'm probably most impressed with. So this little guy here is a really nice warrior. I accidentally didn't print one of his arms, so I printed 3 left arms, And while we were assembling this guy, we managed to snap his other arm. So here we go. So there we go. Just really stunning details. There we go. Look at that. So really, really nice detail. Done an absolutely amazing job on the surface textures there. So now I want to go a little bit bigger, and we want to talk about the flexible resin. So I cut this one on purpose so that you could see what we were working with inside. So this had a 10% infill. This particular elastopolymer, that wasn't anywhere near enough of an infill. This is completely squishy, This is after curing. So the surface texture on this, I just want to show you from a rubber perspective, was beautiful, absolutely glorious, really, really nice. Again, I cut this here so you could see what the infill was like, and even this is all really squidgy and everything, really good. And then we come on to something that I tried to do for fun, and turned out just to use an awful lot of resin to be absolutely massive. So these are obviously large flip-flops. They are completely bendable, squeezable, foldable. I did not do a high enough infill on these. I only did 10%. That wasn't enough. They're only 1.9 mil thick walls. That wasn't enough. I've never used elastopolymers before, where they're like stretchy, so I don't know why I thought I would just go for this as my first print with them. But they both printed at the same time. As you can tell, they are ginormous, but I really, really like them. And we're going to see if we can get some more elasto resin to see if we can do these again, but do them the right size. So these are about 30% too big. So we need to do them about 30% smaller. And I want to see if we can do them again, and just support them more and do a much better infill. Again, these printed with the completely stock profiles. I have never printed with elastopolymers before. I used their profile that came with Chi2 Box, and it just worked. I should have done higher density supports, and I should have done quite a lot more infill to have made them sort of wearable and usable. But as you can see from these, glorious results. So as you can see, the print quality, absolutely stunning. This is with, so I want to be clear how the sort of the process we went through with this. Normally we get a printer, they give us a profile. There are some fairly basic profiles. You normally have to tweak them quite a lot to get to where you need to be. Sometimes they come with a bunch of preloaded ones, but again, normally they're a bit overexposed. You have to tune them for detail or tune them for speed. This machine came with about 40 profiles preloaded in Chi2 Box, which covers all of Magforms resins. We used the XC110 profile, which is one of their standard resins. For Sunlu, it worked perfectly. We have made 0 tweaks to that. We have printed full bed. We have printed individual models. We've done things with a fair amount of height, and again with the elastomers. So with these sort of with the flip flops and the tires, we just clicked the elastomer profile and started printing. And I am blown away about how easy it was to do that. If you were someone who was standing up a manufacturing space, standing up a new farm, standing up a resin space, it doesn't get much easier than get this out of the box. You don't have to level it. It's leveled from the factory. You can level it. So this is something that I do not like with a lot of level-free designs. A lot of level-free designs don't allow you to level the build plate afterwards. So that means that if, for whatever reason, their leveling is off by a couple of microns, then part of your build plate now isn't usable. This comes from the factory leveled, but you can still re-level it if you need to. So, for example, after you had a bit of wear and tear on your bed, if you felt that it needed to go a bit closer, or if you've got a new bed and again you needed to readjust it, you can adjust those beds. The UI on this, we'll take a little look at that in a second. The UI is so nice, so really responsive, super easy to use. Loads of options in there about, you know, turning on and off bits and pieces in the machine, but really simple to use. Every single time you go to print, it does a little spot check, tells you how much resin it expects to use. One thing that I want to say that is so important is the time in Cheeto Box versus the time this actually takes. There is about a 2 to 3% variance in that time, which I can't tell you how different that is from every other resin printer that we have. So almost every other resin printer will say, we have a 24-hour print going on, you put it into the printer, and after about 10 layers, it goes, oh yeah, this isn't 24 hours, this is 37. This, if it says 24 hours, it might be 24 and a half. But there is a timer that comes up, it gives you a very clear indication of when it's going to finish, and really accurate, which is rare because that doesn't really happen that often. If we come to the scores, right, of how I would rate this machine. This machine is insanely heavy. It is, let me just check, it is 58 kilos or 127 pounds on its own. It's very heavy. This is sheet steel. It's not aluminium. The build plate is also very heavy. It's slotted, which we'll show you now. So you can see that there are slots going diagonally. Those slots, you would think, oh, this is going to be really hard to get things off the build plate. Well, we have these super thin scrapers from Stanley. They're like wallpaper scraper things. And honestly, you knock them on the side and they just come off. So we had a little bit of PTSD from our Frozen Mega 8K, where there are holes in the build plate. It's genuinely difficult to get things off of that build plate. We were thinking, oh God, this is also going to be really hard. It really wasn't. Most of these models, you just tap on the side with this and they just came off so easily. The one caveat I will make to that is that you really aren't going to be printing flat on this build plate. Don't really print flat generally with resin printers anyway, but you can't with this. The base of the raft that you print on will have slots in it. It will. So that raft is throwaway, right? So you couldn't, for example, if you were printing chess pieces, you couldn't print those chess pieces flat on the build plate because they would look like this, which I'll do a close-up of in a second. But these ridges come out, they're very, very predominant. Whatever model you had would be ruined by these. So you will always be printing on a raft with this printer. So let's get to scores. How do I rate this machine? This is probably one of the easiest to set up, easiest to use, consistently great parts with well-tuned profiles. One of the best resin printers I've ever used. Out of the box, it was printing great. It continues to print great. We're going to do another video on the different resins that it comes with and the different properties that they have. I'm going to give this a solid 9.5 out of 10. The 0.5 that I'm knocking it for is that this is a large machine. There's a lot of space in here. I could have fitted a slightly bigger screen in. Didn't need to be 8K, but you could have fitted a slightly larger screen in there, giving me more build volume. I would have liked that. I'm going to knock them like 0.1 of a point for the fact that the USB port is on the side. And then I'm going to knock them a couple of points, points, because that build plate is slotted, and it does mean you can't print directly on it. You always have to print with a raft. Again, the type of things you would be printing on this, that would be irrelevant for 99% of users. There are very, very few cases where you print directly on the build plate. You would always tilt and support. It would give you a better finish anyway. But I'm going to knock them a couple of points for that. Outside of that, this machine has been brilliant. I can't wait to print more things on it. You've seen the detail that this thing turns out. At this screen size, 6K, more than enough. I do not think it needs to be an 8K screen in here. I genuinely think these are really, really high quality prints. It's done incredibly well. We're really looking forward to adding this to the lineup of machines that we have. So, do you want to get one? Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you think that this is a machine that you want to add to your fleet? If it is, don't forget to like and subscribe to see a little bit more. We'll catch you on the next video. Cheers, guys.